Hey, it's Marthea Pitts, the MSW coach. And I'm going live to ask you a question. Are you a preventionist or interventionist? Which one are you? And this is just going to be part one of this conversation. Because I'm going to do a second part. But today I'm going to be focusing on preventionists. And what are some signs that you are meant to do prevention level work on the macro level? I'm pinning the comments, so that's why you see my forehead. But as you come in the room, drop in the chat and tell me where you're located. Where are you in the world? It helps me understand where people are. Drop whatever city, state, country you're in. It helps me understand. I'm going to pin this comment. We're going to jump into this conversation. But I'm looking for something really quickly, and we're going to start. Oh, San Antonio, Texas. Okay, San Antonio. I love it. I recently moved to the state of Texas. So I love it. How far is San Antonio away from DFW Metroplex? Cohort 16. Georgia is in the building. Hey, Pearl, how you doing? Thank you so much. I love it here. I was like, I should have moved sooner. Yeah, so I'm almost done pinning this comment. Give me a minute. I hate multitasking. But I want to talk about this because this is a conversation I was having with the micro to macro career accelerator participants today in our group coaching call. Specifically from the standpoint of knowing when you are no longer focused on doing like practitioner level work, and what are signs that you really truly are meant to do macro level work. 4 hours. Okay, San Antonio is 4 hours. Okay, great. So I want to ask the question first, and I want you, whoever is on the live, drop it in the chat so I can see. Do you consider yourself to be a preventionist or an interventionist, like in your approach to the work that you do? Maybe you've been in the field of social work, and I'll actually give you a better question to guide you into figuring this out. Like when you work with your populations, whatever setting that you're in, whatever the population is that you serve, have you identified the deeper issues, the systems level issues that the people are being impacted by that causes them to come in your program year after year, decade after decade? Okay, Ashley says interventionist, but I'm more passionate about prevention. Yes, Ashley. Brenda. Yes, Brenda is a preventionist, most definitely. Okay, so good. You picking up what I'm putting down. So what I was talking to the group today about was like ways to uncover, like this is part of the framework that I teach my coaching clients. This is why my people get macro jobs, love their jobs, stay in their jobs for years, and all of the things. This is how they shift into more aligned work. The basic part of this process is helping them to uncover what angle, what issue are they more passionate about than others or interested in than others, right? Because the basis of what I teach people is that just because you've done X in the past doesn't mean you have to be married to that in your new macro job, right? This is how my people pivot into completely unrelated areas. They maybe never have worked on anything related to children as a social worker on the front lines. However, they're getting macro social work jobs working around children's issues or environmental justice issues. It's because we did the preliminary work using the 3 Ps framework to really get clear around what issue are they more like drawn to. Okay, so I said all that to say this. So when I ask you, are you a preventionist? And I'm looking at my notes. Are you a preventionist or interventionist? I want to give you 3 signs that you are a preventionist, and that you would be like, these are indicators that you probably should be doing macro level work. And Ashley already like kind of tapped into it. She says, but I'm more passionate about prevention, right? So the first sign, and these are actually signs that I identified for myself before getting my first macro job. I also see it in my coaching clients, which I've helped well over 176 social workers get macro jobs. These are the themes that I see in our conversations and how we approach our everyday work when we were in case management. So I want to bring to you the top 3 things that I'm noticing so you can then do a self-assessment to see, oh yeah, I do that. I talk about that thing, and I want you to then use it as a guide to let you know that you really should probably be doing macro level work and rather than practitioner level work, right? So the first sign is that you have identified the larger systems impacting your people. So today in the coaching call, I was one of my new coaching clients that just joined the cohort, the Accelerator. She is working on refining her 3 Ps, which is the areas that she wants to specialize in as a macro social worker. She has worked years in child welfare. However, she's at the point that many social workers are when they come to me and they're like, I can't really say that I'm super passionate about it. It's just the job that she's had since she graduated with her college degree. And she's been there for several years, I think going on 13 years, 14 years, something like that, right? And so because I help people pivot into completely unrelated areas, I have to understand what is the issue that she's seeing in the world that she maybe possibly can do work on, right? And so when we were talking today, she talked about how she sees these issues regarding child welfare workforce issues, right? Because they're completely overworked, they're overburdened. And so I began to ask her questions to take her through the framework. And the first question that I asked her was, okay, we know that you're not super interested in child welfare workforce issues, right? But you're seeing this thing. So to help her really drill down and get clear on what is the issue, I asked her, what are the long-term impacts of your people from these overburdened workers, right? So then she began to share like the cases are being closed out, not in a timely manner. The parents are being separated from their children because as a result of this, a lot of unrealistic plans. And I'm not child welfare. I never worked in child welfare. But she's like, basically the reunification plans that are being created are unrealistic. And it's really truly setting the people up for failure. These are my words, not hers, right? So with that, I began to ask her, okay, so if we know that child welfare, the workforce issues, that's the presenting problem. What are the deeper issues here, right? And so then we got into this much larger conversation about how there's other things impacting these families other than just them not doing the treatment plan. It's the workforce, it's systemic level issues, maybe as far as access, social capital access, financial. For me, it may be workforce development. They don't have adequate jobs to meet all of the components of their treatment, like their reunification plans, all of the things. So I wanted to get that as an example. But the sign that you are maybe meant to be a preventionist is that you think deeper about the larger systems impacting your people that you serve. And this can be in your job or it can be in your personal life. So what I see some social workers doing, right, who are more practitioner focused, is they may use the wording around the people just don't want to use the services, or the people just need more education around the thing, right? So let's say that they're a social worker that's trying to expose people to more positive parenting skills and techniques. I'm just making this up, but run with it. More positive parenting skills and techniques. A practitioner would say, oh, the people just don't want to engage. Hey, Olivia, how you doing? A practitioner would say the people just don't want to engage, whereas a preventionist would be looking deeper to see, oh, yeah, the people aren't coming to the workshops because they don't have transportation, or they have to work, or there's a language barrier. Right? So a preventionist goes deeper than what is in front of us, right? They don't adopt the status quo way of thinking and say, oh, the people just don't want to come. They don't want nothing that we giving them. No, it's because these parents, they have to go to work. And this is for me on workforce development. They have to go to work and they can't come to your 3 p.m. meeting and miss work, because if they miss work, that means they lose their job, right? Because they don't get paid time off. Like, you look at the more deeper issues, right? So that's one sign. The second sign is that you research ways to really help your people. What I mean by that and what I wrote in my notes is that you are concerned with moving from like triage, putting a band-aid on the problem. You are really interested in figuring out, how can I stop these people from coming into this food pantry every week for food? How can I really get them in a place where they have quality food all year round for the rest of their life? For me as a case manager, what that looked like, that sign, was that I used to spend endless hours each day in my cubicle as a workforce development career counselor researching, how do I help my people really achieve lifelong self-sufficiency? Because the federal act that governed my program, the Power Act, says that we are here, the Welfare Transition Program, to help people achieve lifelong self-sufficiency. However, that's not what's happening. How do I know this? The OG case manager on my team had the grandmother. The other OG case manager on my team had the mother. I specialized in working with pregnant and parenting youth, so I had the daughter/granddaughter. So I got really concerned about, these people have been coming in here for multiple decades. They are still on this program. This is a generational issue. I became so concerned with trying to find a real solution that I spent a lot of time in my cubicle between appointments researching what's working in other states. What are they doing to really help people meet the aim of this federal program, which is to achieve lifelong self-sufficiency through quality jobs, education, and training? And in that, I learned what was working in other states, what was working in other regions in my state. Out of that, I also learned about the huge inequities between regions, depending on how the people looked. My program, they were heavily put on work activity. Other regions, they got to spend their time doing job searching. Okay, if we had more time for our people to job search, they would be able to get jobs, right? So I say all that, and you can see I got warmed up on it. Workforce development is my thing, right? Because there's a lot of inequities in the system. But that second sign is that you research ways to really help your people. Right? And so what I started to do was I was researching these things and learning about what other states were doing and what other regions, even other countries were doing. Right? And I would start doing little things with the people on my caseload. I didn't need to go through my supervisor to ask them for help, for approval. I just started implementing little strategies that were within my scope of work, and it started to work. So much so that I began to be better able to articulate what was really going on with my caseload, with the people we were serving, my career seekers. And it positioned me to take lead of this hybrid program that my region decided to do, to co-enroll my people, because there was a huge gap. My people were being seen on the welfare transition side, but they weren't being actively talked to about getting into education programming, services, and things like that. So when the opportunity presented itself, I had created a lane of expertise for myself, so much so that my region was like, Marthea, we want you to be the point person on this program. We want you to help us roll it out and implement it. Right? So the second sign is that you research ways to really help your people beyond putting a band-aid. That's a sign that you're a preventionist. And I didn't say, this is only part one. I'm giving you 3 signs that you're a preventionist, and I'm going to come back another day and give you 3 signs that you're an interventionist. But all of this is moving beyond just being a practitioner. Okay? The third sign is you advocate personally or professionally for your population or the issue that you see this problem in. And so what I've seen over the last 5 years with a lot of social workers is, we're going to talk about professionally first. In your professional life, many of you are volunteering for these special committees, these boards, so you may even create your own programs or workshops around a certain topic because you see that your people are suffering from this thing. They're being impacted by this other issue that's not necessarily addressed by your program or your organization. So you take it upon yourself and create something to fill this gap, to address this unmet need. That's a sign that you are a preventionist, right? Because you're like, all these people need is this, and they won't have to come in here every week. For my medical social workers, you're like, all they need is to be connected to a pharmaceutical company that can maybe give them a prescription voucher. And they won't have to come in here every quarter because they are having a mental health crisis, right? Because then they'll have access to their prescription because they are not going without. I just made that up, but it's true. I blended some things. That's my medical social workers, my mental health social workers, right? So you've identified this unmet area of need, and you go out and create ways to like address it, but address it in the long term, right? You're not just coming up with something. I'm just going to give you a referral to the community mental health center, and that's just going to help them for that one visit. You're thinking long term. You're thinking, how can I prevent you from coming back here in a crisis again? Okay. Or maybe even you're thinking like for, let's say, children, students with social emotional learning needs. You're like, well, I noticed that I'm a school social worker, and I noticed that all of my students, I'm making this up, all of my students are suffering with this one thing. And I believe that if more parents had the support to provide students with this level of like support at home, or maybe if parents had more access. I'm gonna give you a real scenario that I just finished helping a client with, my coaching client with. She is interested in arts exposure. From a preventionist angle, her belief is that if more people had access to the arts, it would overall reduce stress levels, and it will teach people how to prioritize self-care, right? Because you will have an outlet. However, a preventionist, going back to the sign number one, right? Sign number one, I forced her to think deeper. I said, so, okay, if everyone needs arts exposure, what are the current barriers to people getting arts exposure, right? What are the current barriers to people taking an arts class and doing that on a regular basis? She named money, right? Because you got to pay for these classes. She named time. So I said, okay, time poverty is real. We on to something, right? So being a preventionist, you are looking for constant ways to prevent a problem. Because what spurred this conversation in my coaching call earlier in the micro to macro career accelerator is we were talking about the child welfare system and the issues that this person, one of my coaching clients, sees. And I'm like, what would really help the people not come and even be exposed to these workforce related issues, and then now they're trapped up in the system? So then I'm going to talk about, I said professional. I'm going to talk about personal. Some of the ways that I see you all doing preventionist level work in your personal life. I see a lot of social workers creating like, how do I say this? I have one social worker. I'm explicitly talking about this one social worker. I'm trying to freestyle, but I'm going to give you real examples. One of my current coaching clients, she's a medical social worker in California. She has been a medical social worker for years. She's a specialized medical social worker. She works on this special mental health research where they have to have a medical social worker on staff as a part of their research funding. However, she has identified a gap in this type of mental health medical treatment, where there's large talks around treatments and interventions and stuff for the patients. However, there's no explicit intervention or support given to the caregivers of the patients, right? So as a result of that, and as far as like their wellness and ensuring that they have the capacity to provide this high level of care for their family members and their loved ones. So because of this, and because outside of her career life, she's really, really passionate about yoga. In her free time, she has created a series of yoga classes that she delivers online to the caregivers. And she does it virtually for one very specific reason. This is the gap she's identified, and like how everybody else around the country is delivering this service, is she knows firsthand from being a practitioner that caregivers cannot just leave their family members at home to go take a yoga class, even though national macro organizations, even local organizations are recommending that caregivers go prioritize their self through wellness activities. She's like, but they can't leave. They don't have people to care for their family. So then as a result, the care of the caregivers is still like at a decline. So in her free time, she's created these series of services where she provides yoga classes virtually. And as a result, she sees that the rates of like, and I'm not doing it no justice, right? She sees where the caregiver capacity has increased tremendously because she's created this intervention, this thing to meet an unmet need. So I say that to say, like, maybe you created something inside of work and maybe you created something outside of work to address this need that you see that's a much deeper issue that hasn't been addressed, right? Because her belief is that the people have wellness, then that will improve the care and the treatment plans that were given to these families for their loved ones. And she's ultimately preventing the people from having to come back through the healthcare system and get this costly treatment. Ashley, I believe that if people are more informed of the importance and awareness that mental health is healthcare, there will be an increase in wellness management. I love that. So my question back to you is, what could possibly be a barrier to people becoming more informed? What could possibly prevent that? So let's say you have a program where you're educating the people about mental health is healthcare. What could possibly prevent them from doing it? Like me, just off the dome, and I never have worked in healthcare, right? I'm thinking about access, health insurance access. If they don't have health insurance, they may not be able to go to your education programs, right? Or maybe it's time poverty. Maybe it's like for me, I just moved from a very rural town. Like I've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. And how I realized that I really was at a deficit. I had access to nothing. And I'm not even a person that's technically defined as a person in need, but I still was at a deficit. I had no access to anything of quality. Which is why now that I think about it, a large number of the people in that town have to travel to the nearest major city, which is 2 hours away, or 3 hours away because we don't have a children's hospital, right? So when the children need medical care that's intensive, they have to travel to Gainesville, Florida from Tallahassee. Okay, Ashley says, I think stigma around mental health diagnoses and the things you mentioned, access, time, insurance, costs, yes. So that's what's impacting. Those are the other systems impacting them. I love it, Ashley. Ashley came here to do work. I love it when people engage, Ashley. So those are the 3 signs. And Ashley, you did a great job. And I think you rounded this conversation out well because you have clearly identified what's going on. Like you said, I have a passion for prevention though. But however, you see how we refine that out and you named what is the system, what is the issue, and what are the other systems impacting them. So you're thinking deeper. And I want to say that you are truly ahead of the pack because not anybody on this live, many social workers don't think that deep. That's the whole point of this conversation is I want you all to really start thinking deeper about what you are looking at in your work. Right? We are change makers over here. We don't want to have the whole pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality. We're offering this thing and y'all not coming. Why are they not coming? And I almost named a system because that I just experienced that with. I came in as a social worker in a room full of other people from another profession that I won't name. And they literally looked at me like I had 10 heads because they just want to talk about their thing. And I'm like, you can't talk about that if you just said the people don't have have language barriers. We got to talk about translation services. We got to talk about cultural representation. We got to talk about, is there mistrust between your system and their community? Most likely it is. That's not why they're not engaging in your service. See, I'm getting warmed up. Ashley says, thank you. I try to come in on your lives and take from the free game you give. I appreciate you. Oh, Ashley, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So for those who are watching, those who watch the replay, I want you to think about those 3 things, right? Those 3 signs. Because that's it. That's the theme. If you're doing one of them things, you're supposed to be doing macro level work. We need you. We need you. All right. So I also want to say that Cohort 16 enrollment is opening for the micro to macro career accelerator. Come work with me. My people getting jobs every day. Is one of them in the feed. We not going to announce her career win yet, but she just got a big job with a Fortune 500 company. I got another one that's lined up. My people getting jobs. However, you're like, I'm not ready yet, Marthea. You need to be doing all of the stuff I come on here and talk about, the things I talk about on YouTube, because then it makes your work go a lot smoother once you come inside the accelerator. I don't come on just to talk about fluff. These are real things. These are real conversations we have inside of the accelerator. This is what makes you a top qualified macro social worker. This is what helps you get jobs. We talk about more than just resume writing. You have to be strategically building your expertise. So that's why I'm like, what are the systems impacting your people? You need to be researching that. You should be able to talk to that. You should be able to talk about what other people are doing in the country to address this thing. Right? You should maybe even be able to talk about, like, what are the outcomes looking like in your region when you tested this out as a practitioner? Because when you shift to macro level work, you're doing work to make this more widespread. So the more quantifiable and qualitative information, quantitative information you have about it, data, that makes you more competitive for these jobs. It helps you be able to articulate your value to macro employers. But the real reason I wanted to come on is to encourage y'all to think deeper. You got to think deeper. It's not the people not coming. It's other things. It's other things. It's not that they don't want to be reunified with their children. It's other issues. Okay? So Cohort 16 enrollment is opening for the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator on Sunday, October 13th. If you're interested, click the link in my bio. Go read information about the accelerator. Plan. I'm all about planning. Go read it. Go schedule a get to know you chat with me. It's free. Just come talk to me. Come talk to me, and I'm going to listen to what your needs are, and I'll tell you how the Career Accelerator is a good fit for you. You don't have enough information to figure out on your own. If I can help you, you can't. But I can listen to you and then tell you, okay, this is how I can help you inside of the accelerator. This is how I can provide more intensive support to you. And then if you join the wait list by clicking the link in the bio, you get free, like not free, but it's free, but you get private invites. I want to be hosting a series of free workshops to people on the wait list, so you can start doing some preliminary work to prepare yourself to come inside the accelerator. All right, so I have some topics that I have lined up that I'm going to go over in these workshops. Even if you're like, I don't know if I'm ready right now, still put your name on the wait list so you can come to the workshops. But tell a friend. Enrollment is opening on October 13th. Thank you so much for being here and doing this work and listening to me go on and on. But I need y'all to be thinking deeper. I need you to be thinking deeper about your work. All right. And this is the time to really be collecting data on what's affecting your people. You got to know. You got to be able to speak to that. You have to be able to articulate those issues. If you want to be competitive, it's not the degree, it's your expertise. And I always say that a case management job is gold. That's where you get your experience. All right, I'm going to go because I feel like I'm going to get back on and start talking about workforce development and all the things I saw. But that's how I got my macro jobs. I really started paying attention to what was happening here. It ain't that the people don't want a job. It's that you got them doing 40 hours of volunteering. How are they going to go look for a job if they're volunteering for 40 hours? Well, let me go. All right. Talk to y'all later. Happy macro career planning. Bye. You're welcome.